What's going on, everyone? So we just received CPI, and it does show that the economy is cooling. Inflation is cooling. We also have news that Germany is continuing to sell. I'm going to let you know how many coins they have left. And we also just got a short report from Iren. It is tanking. First off, let's look at CPI. Inflation falls 0.1% in June from prior month, helping the case for lower rates. And we got a 12-month read of 3%, which is around the lowest level we've seen in about 3 years.
So we see this goes a long way for potentially that September rate cut, even though many may be pointing towards July. I personally don't think that's in the cards, but one never knows. It certainly seems as though Jay Powell now has two issues that he can point to for potentially easing. Inflation getting closer to his target, but still not there. And of course, the new wild card he pulled out that no matter what inflation does, it's a lot lower than it was, came down a lot last year, and he's now nervous about the labor market. And we can point to the two pillars of maximum employment, stable prices, and then that outlier pillar that maybe isn't quite a pillar, moderate long-term rates.
This was the first time since 2020 in May that the monthly rate showed a decrease. And as said by Chris Larkin, the managing director of trading and investing at E-Trade, said that the June inflation report means the Fed is one step closer to a September rate cut. A lot can happen between now and September 18, but unless most of the numbers pivot back into hot territory, the Fed's reasoning for not cutting rates may no longer be justified. If we keep getting data that shows that we're cooling down, that we're not getting hotter, Chris Larkin sees no reason the Feds won't cut rates. And while Jerome Powell's target is 2%, he said that multiple times, this June report shows that inflation is going in that direction, not getting any surprising turn back around. Markets are now pricing in a cut in September, followed by one more by the end of the year. We keep getting selling coming out of Germany. They shed over 3,100 Bitcoin, now they hold less than 10,000 Bitcoin left. They're left with $587 million worth of Bitcoin. The fear surrounding this is pretty much subsided. This is a much different number than roughly 2 billion. Alright, now I want to talk about Iren. They just received a short report from Who Cares. And you know, honestly, it couldn't have come at a better time. In my opinion, I wouldn't even worry about the short report. It's all about their money. They're obviously making money off of it, and they obviously wanted Iren to drop in price. And they were successful in that. Iren is down 11.5% on the day, and one thing that we saw was a bearish divergence. Lower highs on the RSI, higher highs on the chart price. This is a divergence. Shows that momentum is waning. Obviously, we can't see something like this coming. No one can predict a random news piece like this, but many of us do predict that the market will continue to rip and dip along the way. We're not just going to go straight up and to the right. We are going to have pullbacks, and Iren was due for one. Every time we've seen Iren's chart get like this on the daily, we do eventually see it cool down. We get to the extremes. If you see an extreme like overbought, when the market's way too euphoric, eventually there is a pullback. Eventually there is profit taking. The same with the downside. Like back here in January of 2022, once you get a little too oversold, the market does usually correct. And we've seen this in both directions, at both extremes. When we get extremely oversold, we do get a relief rally. When we get extremely overbought, we do see a pullback. This is another instance of that. If we do keep pulling down a bit more, I do think $10 will be an important place to watch out for. This was a previous resistance. I could definitely see the market attempting to hold this as a support. This is also right where the 50 MA is at. However, if we do break this $10 resistance, I think the next stop would be somewhere around 8, which has played out as a previous resistance point many times. If we don't hold 10, I would expect we will hold 8. I don't personally see us coming down all the way to the 200 MA at $6, but following this trend line, maybe there's a possibility we head down towards the support. Typically, these things do get drawn out for a little while, and it does take a little while to recover. I'd be surprised if this is just a one-off thing and we just have a one-day drop. I think this will probably keep Iren low for a few days. We might see some new lower prices. And to me, that's a good thing because I'm overall bullish on Iren for the long term. If you look at Iren on the long term and you see a successful company, you should want some more cheaper shares. But if you don't have high conviction in it, I understand you might not want to see lower prices. Following the fib, you know, we are down towards our 0.5. We basically came down towards it and touched it, and we kind of bounced off. I do think we're going to come down and revisit the 0.5 or the 0.618. I also want to briefly talk about MicroStrategy. They are going to have a stock split, a 1 to 10. And what am I seeing from MicroStrategy right now? Well, I do think we're going to fill out this pattern. And we're either going to find resistance on the 50 MA, retest this trend line, or we're going to come up to this resistance, either break out of it or get rejected, and continue to fill out this triangle. We do have a hidden bullish divergence. We have lower lows on the RSI, and we have higher lows on the price. One thing with stock splits is usually there's a little bit of hype leading up to the stock split, and then it's a little bit of a lull afterwards, but it depends on the stock. I would expect something similar from MicroStrategy. We come up towards resistance, the stock split happens, and then we start pulling back a little bit, test some previous levels. And of course, it does depend on Bitcoin. Keep in mind how much MicroStrategy has ran. I mean, this ended the bear market at like a $200 stock. It's still more than 6x from there. Even with this retracement, even with this pullback from nearly 2,000, you know, we're down 30%. We're still up 5x on MicroStrategy. So keep in mind, you know, this might cool down a bit more. If we get rejected, if we break this pattern to the downside, maybe we're coming back to our 200 MA, right around $1,000. Maybe Bitcoin shows a little more weakness with the Mt. Gox stuff going on. Maybe we start seeing some outflows from the spot Bitcoin ETFs, and maybe MicroStrategy pulls back a bit. You can only speculate what's going to happen with Bitcoin, and therefore how MicroStrategy is going to get affected. But on the lower points of MicroStrategy, when looking at the rest of the bull run, I do think it's a buying opportunity. Right here, I'd probably be a little patient. But you know, this is good news. If you want to get in on this split before the split, you can try to buy 1 share of MicroStrategy and it'll turn into 10 shares. Or you can buy 1 fractional share, a tenth of a current share, and eventually it'll turn into 1 share. Now, and I might have not said the date, but it's going to be August 7th. Let me know what you guys think about CPI. It's definitely a positive sign seeing it come down a bit, seeing more likelihood of Fed rate cuts this year. What do you think about MicroStrategy's stock split? It's definitely good to stick with the companies that are reporting stock splits rather than reverse splits, but I digress. And how are you feeling about Iren? Are you waiting for better prices? Are you getting in now, taking advantage of it? Or do you think we are heading lower? Thanks as always for watching, guys. Let me know what you're picking up today, and I will see you on the next one.